What is up? Welcome to the Red and Bold Show. I am your host, Marc Adams. You can find me at 49ers Camelot, and I'm joined by the illustrious, the great, your favorite content creator with the 49ers, Mr. Anthony Robertson. Ant, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Besides my wife and my mom, probably you're the only one who thinks I'm the number one or the favorite content creator for the 49ers. But yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm enjoying life right now. 49ers, everything about it's optimistic. So I'm just kind of in a good place. Looking forward to more of the schedule release, which is going to come out on Thursday. So that's tomorrow. Wow, this week is going by really quickly. We know that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be playing the 49ers in Mexico City. So things are starting to kind of come around and people are going to start figuring out, hey, this is a win. That's a win. This is, everything like that. So it's a good time. It's a good time to be a 49er fan. It's a good time in general. And of course, Mark, it's always great when I get to spend time on the Red and Bold Show with you, because it's one of my favorite times of the week. So I feel like it's always just a good time. We always have a great time. And I'm excited to have that right now.
Yeah, it is. It is good time, and it's good time to be a 49ers fan. We'll talk more about that. And next week, hopefully, we'll have some time to kind of break down that schedule and maybe see what we think. We've done that in the past. I don't know that we haven't gone through and done win loss kind of thing, but I think that we've gone through and done 49ers advantage, 49ers disadvantage kind of thing. So maybe we'll try that next week. Before we get going into our main stuff, I wanted to get your thoughts on, I don't know if you saw this video from Dante Whitner yesterday. Apparently Jair Brown called him and called Richard Sherman and told them to stop talking about him negatively. And according to Whitner, Jair Brown said that he thinks that he played really well. We felt like you and I felt like he played well as a rookie in 2023, but was terrible in 2024. Not very good last year. I mean, he has good moments, like any young player. But by and large, I especially don't really feel like he should be starting for the 49ers. If they had somebody else better, then fine. But anyway, he basically told Dante Whitner that he believes he's a Pro Bowler and that he doesn't think that he can learn anything. And Whitner made reference to the fact that he himself made 3 Pro Bowls at the same position that Jair Brown plays. And I also, throw out the fact that Richard Sherman is a future Hall of Famer. And so you're telling 2 guys who played for the 49ers and played at a really high level, especially Sherman, that you don't think you can learn from them. I want to get your thoughts on it because I thought this was really weak. For starters, we all face criticism. Like, I get it plenty of the time. Sometimes I deserve it, sometimes I don't. I'm sure you have your share of critics that come in and say things. Anytime you put yourself out there, you're going to have critics. And so for an NFL player, it comes with the territory. I mean, Joe Montana was criticized. Jerry Rice was. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to be criticized from time to time. And so I thought it was weak that he can't take that. But my biggest concern was the fact that he doesn't think that he needs to learn anything from these guys. That troubles me and makes me wonder, can he get any better? Did you see this, and what were your thoughts?
Yeah, Tommy Huxley comes on, and stuff. He sent it to me on Instagram, so I got to see the video. I was surprised that Jair Brown reached out to Dante Whitner, that he reached out to Richard Sherman, for the mere fact that you're expecting guys who work within the media to give criticism. And I know that they're former players and they've been through it. They've all been criticized as well. So I was a little shocked, by that. I think that this whole thing is interesting because now Whitner, has put it out there. A lot of times these conversations happen. I think they don't ever meet the light of day.
Right.
I will say that I'm a little surprised that Jair Brown took it that far. I think that, his play alone, it leaves him open to criticism. And like you said, there's a lot of good moments. There's high points where he does some things here and there where it's like, woo. The problem is the consistency, and I think that's what everyone looks at. And he hasn't been consistent enough to be a Pro Bowl caliber player, that's for sure. And so I think that Dante Whitner, what Dante Whitner and Richard Sherman have said, I think about Jair Brown has been legitimate. And so I think that him being upset about that, he needs to just look at it, reevaluate, and do some work himself. Now, anything about not being able to take anything from those guys, to me, that's really surprising. I think in this situation, him reaching out to them would have been, hey, I don't really like the criticism, but what do you see from my game? What can I get better at? What do you think, you could help me with, or any tips or pointers? I think that is probably a better approach. But I think Jair Brown's just a little frustrated, and maybe that's going to be a good thing. Maybe a frustrated Jair Brown who's starting to kind of see the criticism and hear it is looking at his situation and saying, you know what, I got to get better. So maybe this will put a chip on his shoulder. I hope it does, because they need the best Jair Brown that they can get. That safety room has got to take a step forward no matter who it is, and Jair Brown needs to be one of those guys. So I saw it, some of the stuff with, Whitner kind of, buries him a little bit. That's I don't know about all that, but he's doing his job as a media member now. But as far as Jair Brown, like, all right, it's time to just look at yourself and realize that you did not play at a Pro Bowl level. You don't have the consistency for that. If you did, then it would be a whole different story. And Dante Whitner and Richard Sherman especially would not be saying anything negative about you. He'd be building you up, because that's what Sherman does. He loves doing that. And so it's just, you just got to take your lumps and move forward. And I think that's hard for him right now, but I'm hoping it's going to benefit him in the long run.
Yeah, I think that if he would have reached out and said, hey, I didn't like what you said, tell me what I can learn, like what you mentioned, I think that would be a sign of strength and would be a positive thing. And Whitner laid out in the video some things that he thinks that Brown needs to do better at. But reaching out and saying, hey, quit doing this, I'm fine where I'm at, you can't teach me anything anyway, is really arrogant. And I think it oozes too much pride. I mean, you want to have pride in what you do and in yourself, but if you have too much of it, you're not going to see your weaknesses and see those areas in which you need to improve. So I didn't like that at all. It really concerned me, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Let's jump to the rookie minicamp and see what we can pull out from that. There were some things that I made some notes here, and then I want to see what else you would mention in addition to this. The first thing that I wrote is that Kaelon Black is going to be a problem out of the backfield. And I say that because everybody's talking about his pass protection, which he looks to be elite at that. Everybody knows about his ability to run the ball. He rushed for over 1,000 yards last season. I was just, and let me preface this by saying, when I see rookie minicamp or OTA videos or whatever, like when a receiver is running a route against air, I don't put anything into that. If you're a professional receiver, you need to catch every ball that's thrown your way, unless it's just an absolutely horrible throw that's nowhere close to you. If you're running routes against air, you need to catch every ball. And if you don't, that's generally a lack of focus. So doesn't mean that everybody's going to be perfect. I'm sure Jerry Rice dropped some, but I think that when you look at a running back running routes like Kaelon Black was in the rookie minicamp, that caught my attention a little bit more. I expect receivers to be fluid. I expect them to have good hands, but the running back isn't always that way. And so what I saw from his routes, I really liked. I mean, he wasn't, running anything complex, but the thing that impressed me the most was that catching the ball, he looked really smooth. There was one pass that was thrown a little bit behind him, and he reached back and caught it. To me, I think with a running back, you can tell a little bit about what they might bring to the table as a receiver. And so that I was really impressed with. And I thought, man, I don't know if he's going to be the downfield threat like McCaffrey or Ricky Waters. I mean, we all remember Super Bowl 29, Ricky Waters catching the second touchdown of the game, that deep ball from Steve Young. Roger Craig did those kinds of things. I'm not saying Kaelon Black is going to be able to beat a defender down the sideline and catch the ball in stride, but he looked good in just in the limited amount. Again, I don't put a whole lot into what I see in rookie minicamp, but I did like how fluid and how comfortable he looked catching the ball. It's going to be different. I remember when I first put on a helmet and pads, it was totally different trying to catch the ball for the first time. And so obviously he's done it, so it should be no big deal to him. I was just a kid, but I think that he might be a weapon out of the backfield that we haven't really thought about.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just did my breakdown of Kaelon Black over on Patreon. So I watched a ton of film. I was really getting into everything about him. And I really felt like this was a Kyle Shanahan, Bobby Turner selection, like to the very end. And when I looked at him at first, he reminded me of Olandis Gary. I don't remember if he reminded me of Olandis Gary, the way that he was able to play physically and kind of break some tackles. But the longer I watched him, it really reminded me of Devontae Freeman, who played for the Atlanta Falcons. The same stature, really close to the same size, same, build. Actually, Kaelon Black's a little bit faster, a little bit more explosive. I mean, even though when you watch it, Freeman is the guy who can really do some damage. But Freeman was a lot like that when you talk about a guy who can make some plays out of the backfield. It wasn't the Christian McCaffrey style of pass catcher, but he was the guy that ran all the normal routes that a running back would run in a traditional offense. And I think that's what the 49ers are going back to. I think, we look at the third round hits or third round running backs, and a lot of people are so negative on it with Trey Sermon and Ty Davis Price, especially. I throw Joe Williams out, the fourth round pick. That was Shanahan's first draft. That's a big mistake. But with Sermon and Ty Davis Price, the 49ers were trying to build an offense around Trey Lance. That's why they drafted Aaron Banks as well. They were going with a different style running back. They were going to run a little bit of a different style offense with Trey Lance kind of running some of those quarterback powers and things like that. So they changed it up. Now they're going back to what they do. They did it last year with Jordan James. Now they're doing it again with Kaelon Black. And you're right, seeing him out in space, able to make those plays, those are the things he showed at James Madison, where he would have 3 touchdown games, 2 of those receiving. He's extremely talented. I think that this is a fun player. I think you're right. I think he can be a threat out of the backfield. And this is a return to the 49ers going back to the running backs that fit this system. And so Jordan James last year, we'll see what he ends up being. We don't know yet. Kaelon Black, I'm really excited about it because I do think that, just like you said, he can be a threat out of the backfield this year. And we're going to see more traditional routes when those two guys are in there, right? You're not going to see them split out in the slot and running choice routes and winning like Christian McCaffrey, because I think the 49ers, instead of looking for another Christian McCaffrey, said, there aren't too many of those. There's probably none. Let's go look for guys who fit the mold of our running backs in the past, and let's go with that, because Christian McCaffrey's a unicorn, and we just got to have solid running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that when Kaelon Black was drafted, my first thought was not, oh my gosh, a running back in the third round again. It was, wait, Kyle Shanahan wanted a running back who could do Christian McCaffrey type things. Doesn't mean he's going to do it at that level, but he wanted a back that could do those kinds of things so he could call plays regardless of who was in the game. And I didn't think that Black matched that. But the more I read, the more I see, the more I'm starting to think maybe he does. He's really good at pass protection, probably better than Christian McCaffrey. Who's not bad at it. I mean, we know that well because Frank Gore was elite at it. And so here's a guy that's going to be able to be in on third downs if McCaffrey needs a breather or whatever, because he can protect the quarterback, or he can go out on routes. And as an added bonus, this guy doesn't fumble the ball, which we know that Bobby Turner and Kyle Shanahan love It's one reason why they loved Elijah Mitchell so much, because they could trust him. They hate when running backs fumble. McCaffrey will put the ball on the ground on occasion, but he's an all-pro, so they'll live with that. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. Lou in the chat asks, is Jordan James even going to see the field this year? That's the question. I mean, the assumption is he's going to be the number 2 guy, but right now we don't know that.
Yeah, I think it's an open competition. I really do. I think if you looked at the depth chart, I'm guessing right now Jordan James would be listed ahead of Kaelon Black because of his understanding of the offense being in there an entire year. But make no mistake, they're going to give Kaelon Black every opportunity to come in and compete. And I think the 49ers with Kaelon Black and Jordan James have 2 guys that both do a good job on third and short. They're both guys who finish in the red zone. So these guys are players that can get on the field. And I love the fact it could just be an open competition. Hey, whoever's running the best, whoever's doing the best, you're going to get to play. So I don't know. I'm hoping we see Jordan James. I want to see what he can do. I think we'll see a lot of him in the preseason. Same with Kaelon Black and Isaac Arendo as they try to compete, and we'll see who ends up being that guy. But yeah, I mean, if Kaelon Black ends up being that guy and passes Jordan James and we don't see him, I'm perfectly fine with that, as long as we get a guy that can step in when Christian's out and do a really good job. And I think the 49ers are putting themselves in a situation where they're getting complete running backs, and these guys are complete. Are they great at, catching the football out of the backfield? I don't know if they're great, but they're good. They're solid. And I think the 49ers are good with that. You have plenty of other playmakers when those running backs are on the field. You need these guys that can finish runs without having negative plays. You brought up the fumbles. That's huge, but also always going forward. That's something that Kaelon Black and Jordan James do. They always fall forward, get you an extra couple yards, no negative plays. That's one thing Kyle Shanahan's really went to over the last couple of years. He'd rather have 2nd and 9, than 2nd and 11 because of somebody getting hit in the backfield. So he doesn't want mistakes anymore.
Ronnie Montoya in the chat asks, so does CMC snap count get cut drastically? What do you think about that? I hope that it gets cut, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my chair here. I don't know that it gets cut drastically, but I do hope that it gets cut some.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody's hoping that it's going to get cut down a little bit. I think that even, Kubiak said that in his presser, hey, we got to make sure we do a better job as coaches getting Christian off the field. I thought Christian took a step forward last year when he would actually ask to come off the field. Who knows what his touches would have looked like last year, but I think they need to take it another step. I think that's why Christian said, hey, yeah, I'd welcome another running back coming in. I think that's why you hear Kubiak saying that. I think there's going to be a point of emphasis to make sure Christian doesn't get that kind of touches and those kind of snaps, because I do think they want him healthy for a potential playoff run. So I expect Jordan James and Kaelon Black to have some opportunities this year. So I wouldn't say drastically, but if you told me Christian McCaffrey's numbers went down, I would say that's probably going to happen for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to be interested to see how he comes back next year. Last year he came back, had a great season, but he didn't quite have that. If you look at the 2023 Christian McCaffrey, he ran away from people, and he really didn't do that last year. He lacked some of that burst. I'm interested to see if some of it comes back. I mean, his age is undefeated, and so maybe it can't come back, but hopefully he'll be a little healthier and maybe a little bit quicker this season. The next thing that jumped out to me from the rookie minicamp was that Raheem Morris said nothing. And I don't know if we're just used to Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans, we kind of knew what we had with them. But maybe this was the plan. Don't say anything. Don't give anything away. Maybe it's too early to know. I've heard Matt Barrows talk about how back in 2011, Vic Fangio was pretty open about the fact, early in the off season that, hey, I don't know what I have yet because of the lockout. And so they didn't not only have the lockout, but the staff was brand new to San Francisco. And so they didn't know what they had. And so maybe Raheem Morris is in kind of the same situation that, look, I really don't know what I have yet. So I don't really know what I'm going to say. But I think a lot of people were looking for, since we had that we knew what we had with that Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryan scheme. I think a lot of people were wondering, what's he going to do? Like, is he going to have an outside linebacker on the edge that can do different things than maybe Bosa and somebody else, Michael Williams or whatever. Those guys are primarily stop the run, rush the passer. Is he going to use an outside linebacker that drops into coverage more? I think the people had those kinds of questions, but he didn't give anything.
Yeah, and I have no problems with him not giving anything. Don't tell people what you're planning to do. Just let them figure it out. And I think you're going to have a lot of vanilla type looks when you get into the preseason as well, because the whole goal of this thing is when you get to Australia and you're playing against the Los Angeles Rams, for them not to know what they're going to see from play to play when it comes to that defense. That's how you're going to stay ahead of a guy like Matthew Stafford, which is extremely difficult. I think when you look at some of the roster moves the 49ers have made over the last 2 seasons, I think that really gives a clearer picture. He doesn't really have to say anything, but you can kind of see the players that he's going to have at his disposal. And I really believe it does lean into the fact he can still run this basic 4-3 wide 9 that the 49ers have been running this entire time, a rush 4. He said that we're a rush 4 team. I think that there's a place for that, but they have built in, with the way that they've drafted and the way that they've signed players, a opportunity to go to a 3-4 look pretty much whenever they feel like it. And I think that is something they're really looking at. They want versatility. Now, I think 2026, you're not going to have the extreme versatility you're looking for, but 2027 and beyond, they can have even more if you get guys like Jaden Duggar that could step in and play that hybrid role of an outside linebacker that could step up on the line of scrimmage and bring pressure from the edge, or Romello Height. Maybe he learns how to play off ball a little bit better. So I think that they're working towards that, because I think if you had to worry play to play, if you're a team, if they're going to be in a 4-3 or 3-4, that messes up all your preparation during the week and all the work that you have to do. If you're running players in when it comes personnel wise, you're sitting in an extra defensive end or an extra defensive tackle or an extra linebacker, then the offense can figure out what you're doing. And then, okay, they're going to 3-4. But if you can just adjust because you have all the hybrid players on the field, that's when it comes to be difficult. So I think they're still working to get to where they ultimately want to be, where they're multiple in their look. So he didn't say a lot, but their draft and the way they've been signing players has said a whole lot about where this team is moving forward in the future.
Good question from Lou in the chat. Who plays edge on base downs with Michael Williams not being ready?
Yeah, Lou sent me an email about this, and I was actually saving it. I was going to message him back today and let him know I'm going to do a video about this. But I think right now with Michael Williams, potentially being out, I think he's the most realistic of the edge players to be out because of probably starting the PUP list. I think you look at the guys that they got behind him, and I think they're sitting pretty comfortable. You got 3 guys in the mix for that base down defensive end. You got Keon White, who they drafted last year. He was figuring out the system. He's definitely capable. He's built exactly like Michael Williams. Like, these dudes are very similar. I would say Michael Williams is better against the run. Then you got Sam Okuwanu, who's a little bit more undersized, but plays a firm edge, plays it tough. I think he's pretty solid as well. And then Cam Sample. They brought in Cam Sample. This is a guy that can do it. I think he is the insurance policy in case Michael Williams is not ready to go. So you still have that 4-man rotation with Romello Height being the 5th guy who's a designated pass rusher. So that's why I think they've really insulated themselves. The Cam Sample signing kind of flew under the radar. People thought it was a camp body, but I think it's insurance in case Michael Williams isn't capable and ready to go. So I think they got some options, and who knows? They could always end up bringing somebody else in, which I think is a possibility depending on where salaries start getting for some of these veterans who are still out there. Tons of veterans still available in the free agent market.
Joe Carmack asks, so is Collins the WT daddy in the 3-men front?
I mean, when you're talking about who we're talking about, Collins, I think he's going to be playing the 1 tech, Alfred Collins. Last year, he kind of played both. He would play the 1 tech primarily, but then sometimes he would play a 3 tech and play with CJ West. I think that they see some versatility there, but now with Osa Odighizuwa and with Grayson Halton, you've got the ability to make him a 1 tech full time and move him over. He's one of the biggest 1 techs the 49ers have ever had. That's normally the DJ Jones, right? That kind of role. So now you move him over, and then you got West behind him. Solid rotation there. So I do think Collins will play the 1 tech. I don't think we'll see him as much at 3 tech as we used to.
Interesting. All right. Let's see. Where am I at? Okay. So Brant Boyer, the special teams coordinator, also spoke. Interesting that last year we knew who was going to be the punt returner once they brought on his name slipped me. Sky Moore. Once he was brought in, we knew that he was going to be the punt returner. Kick return, I don't know that we knew a whole lot. We kind of figured Isaac Garindo would factor into that. Brant Boyer doesn't know who's going to return punts and kicks at this point. He said that there are many names, that they're going to look at them. I mean, he even mentioned Christian Kirk, which I kind of doubt that Christian Kirk's going to be returning punts. What do you think about him at this point? Is it all right that he acts like he has no clue who it is, or do you think in his mind he actually does know who's the leader in the clubhouse, but he's going to let it play out? Where do you think he stands on that, and who do you think is the leader in the clubhouse to be the punt returner, and then I guess the 2 kick returners?
Yeah, Brant Boyer's in an interesting situation where I'm sure he has a pretty good idea of who he wants to handle punt and kick returns after what he's seen, over the last year or so. But he's in a situation too where he's got to defer to Kyle Shanahan in some categories, and this is one of them, because Kyle Shanahan has said before he doesn't like guys who just eat up roster spots for special teams. They have to be able to contribute on the field as well. So even guys like Luke Gifford, Saran Neal, those guys are special teams guys. They have to feel confident if they have to go in and play. So I think Jacob Cowing and Jordan Watkins are locked in a battle to see who could be that punt returner. And Kyle Shanahan is going to tip this one way or the other with whoever's playing best. And I think that that's how it's going to happen. Whoever's playing the best at wide receiver, as long as Brant Boyer feels comfortable with that guy, that's the direction they're going to go. And so I think that this is going to be kind of Boyers is going to say, hey, I got this guy leading, but this guy's close. And then Kyle's going to say, okay, but we want this guy for wide receiver, and that's who we're going with. So this is going to be a competition of those guys at the end of the roster competing on the field at wide receiver, but also competing on special teams. And the one thing these guys can't have is Brant Boyer going to Kyle Shanahan and saying, hey, I can't have Cowing or I can't have Watkins. They're too inconsistent. That might tip it the other way for Shanahan, where he's like, okay, well, we're going with this guy because that guy's not going to help us on special teams. So it's going to be a big part of the special teams, of the battle during training camp is going to be special teams this year.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it kind of goes along with the question from Ronnie Montoya in the chat. Who's the odd man out in the wide receiver room?
I don't think there's a clear picture to know who that odd man out is. I think right now you look at the room, it's 5 strong, and then you've got a 6th spot that's up for grabs for whoever wins that return job. I would say it's Jacob Cowing, it's Jordan Watkins. Those are probably the most likely. I know they have some young guys, that people have been bringing up that they brought in as undrafted free agents, guys like Will Pauling. I think that, he'll probably be in the mix. They still got Malik Turner and they got Wesley Grimes. I think all those guys are in the mix, but I think Cowing and Watkins, that's where the focus is probably on the most, and we'll see how those guys end up working out.
I want to circle back to this question on the defense from Joe Carmack. Will we see a 5-man NASCAR type package?
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes a lot of sense if you're going to bring a 5-man pressure to put 5 guys out there that can get after it, because you brought up, them having a guy drop out. When you have guys who are more hybrid style players, we see them do it with Fred Warner all the time, bring him up to the line of scrimmage, he could drop out. I think Romello Height could do that as well, but you also set up some zone blitz looks. All of a sudden, here comes Fred and here comes Dre, and Romello Height drops out, and, Keon White drops out, or whoever they got in there, those guys drop out and play underneath zone. So I think it gives you some versatility. I think sometimes you just bring all 5 guys, and why not, right? Make them get rid of the ball quickly. 3rd and 12, let's bring a 5-man pressure. Let's show them who these guys are. They have to check it down underneath, and then you just rally and make the tackle. So I think it's definitely possible. I don't think it'll be all the time thing, but here and there, I think it's a good look from Raheem Morris.
Offensive coordinator Clay Kubiak also spoke. The thing that jumped out to me is that he said he wants Brock Purdy to be better in the pocket and at getting the ball down the field. That has been something that we've even discussed some, is that Purdy, when back in 2022, 2023, he got rid of the ball quickly. But in 2024, he started holding on to the ball a little bit too long. That exposes his offensive line. It sets him up for getting hit more. And then sometimes he probably takes off when he maybe shouldn't have. Of course, there are times that he throws the ball when he could have taken off and picked up the first down. But what did you think about Kubiak's statement that Brock needs to be better in the pocket and better at getting the ball down the field?
I think it's legitimate criticism, and I think that I think he knows that there's a lot more that goes into that because it's the weapons around him as well, right? It's hard to go down the field when you don't have guys that can win down the field and get open. I think we've seen Brock Purdy be willing to take strikes down the field and then win. Last year, he did not have a legitimate X receiver. I love Jawan Jennings, but that's not his role. That's not what he does, and that's why when he's in Minnesota, he's going to go back to his normal role of what he played in San Francisco before. And so Brock was without some of those guys. Now he's got legitimate threats down the field. Mike Evans, it starts there. Mike Evans can win consistently down the field. Brock Purdy can put the ball up, and he knows Mike Evans is going to come down with it. So I think that the 49ers built an offense that allows him to create more down the field, which they know is necessary. And that's why he's saying it, because they've got to back these safeties up. They've got to get these defenses to kind of give them more space underneath that will open up the running game and then open up the intermediate part of the passing game. Right now, defenses have been willing to show a two-eye safety look and then rotate one of those guys into the intermediate route in that lurk type coverage and take away those deep crossers because they haven't had to worry about the 49ers vertically beating their corners. Well, Mike Evans, Dejon Stribling, even Ricky Pearsall all have the capabilities of doing that. Even Christian Kirk, too, that they added. So they've added so many weapons. I think that's going to help Brock. But it's a point of emphasis, I think, for this team, for him to win from the pocket and to go downfield so they can kind of open things up for everything else.
Lou in the chat asks if Pearsall is healthy, is he starting or is Christian Kirk?
Ricky Pearsall is starting. Ricky Pearsall and Christian Kirk, though they can play the same position, I think Ricky Pearsall is a way better wide receiver at getting separation. This guy, he creates separation. The one problem, the one thing for Ricky Pearsall has been the injury, really last year. If he doesn't have injuries, this guy is able to win. Early on last season, Ricky Pearsall was on a pace for like 1,200 yards receiving. Like he was doing really well, winning down the field with vertical routes. I think Christian Kirk is a nice, insulation piece, right? A guy that could step in if Pearsall's out and you don't lose a whole lot. I think he's still a good player. But make no mistake, Ricky Pearsall was a first-round pick for a reason. This guy is that talented. And I think that 1-2 punch of him and Mike Evans, then you've got some versatility on who comes in on three wide receiver sets from the look that you're looking for, from Stribling to Christian Kirk to DeMarcus Robinson. They've given themselves options now. So I do like that group. But, yeah, I think that it's going to be Ricky Pearsall, and I think him and Mike Evans are going to play really well as long as they can stay healthy.
I agree. I think that as long as Ricky Pearsall is healthy, he's going to play ahead of Christian Kirk. What do you think if they come out in three wide? Who's going to be in the slot? What do you see them doing there? If Evans is on one side and Pearsall's on the other, who's going to be the guy in the slot?
I think it'll be determined completely by matchup. What zone coverage are you getting? What kind of defense are they playing? Who is playing nickel? What's the play call? Because I think they can go with Christian Kirk or with Stribling or Robinson. And with Stribling's ability to block, if you got a smaller nickel corner, right, that might be a good opportunity to get him out there on the smaller nickel corner and run the football. That's an advantage. Or maybe you want the top taken off the defense. Well, Stribling, put him in the slot, let him run a through route right up the seam and draw all the attention up the field and create some things underneath for Pearsall and Evans. So I think it depends. I think when it comes to Kirk, he's going to be able to find holes in the zone. He's very comfortable reading coverage and knowing where to sit down. So I think you've got options. And I like that about the 49ers right now, where you look at the wide receiver room and you're not pigeonholed. but you can go by matchup and scheme and really figure out where to get these guys open.
I think that this is going to be the best wide receiver room if they stay healthy since we have seen since 2023, and maybe in 2024, this was Kyle's plan to have Ayuk healthy, to have Debo, to have Juwan, to have Pearsall, and it just didn't work out mostly because of injuries and Debo just getting slow. And not just injuries to the wide receivers, but Hugh Wilkins asked, can Stribling learn all three wide receiver positions well enough to do them all as a rookie?
Yeah, I think he can. I don't know if he will, but I think he can, because when you look at the 49ers offense, the things that really trip up these guys are more so when they're going in motion and where to line up. Those things are a little bit more difficult. I think they focus when it comes to Stribling on two positions. I think they're going to focus on X in the slot. I think the Z will probably be a position they don't focus on as much. They'll have Pearsall, Kirk, Cowing. Those guys will focus on that. And I think that's what they'll expect him to do at first. I think even the focus might be, depending on what they think of Watkins originally, for them to go slot. But I think that he can learn a couple positions. I think 3 is possible. Just determining or figuring out how quickly he picks up offense is going to be one of the things. I don't know where he's at mentally. I just know he's been through 3 different offenses and different programs and been able to do it. Those are a lot, easier, but I do think he has the capabilities. I think he's only going to have to learn 2, though. I don't think he's going to have to learn the Z role this year.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to put a ton on him. They're going to let him learn and take his time with baby steps, probably. So, and Lou in the chat said, judging from your evaluations, it seems we will never see what Watkins has to offer. I hope that's not the case, because, the guy has some talent, and hopefully he can get on the field this season.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to what he does with the opportunities he's given. He's going to get opportunities in practice. He's going to get opportunities during preseason games, because they're not going to play Mike Evans a lot, right? That he's not going to get a lot of time. I don't expect them to play Ricky Pearsall a ton. They're going to go out there and allow these young guys, Stribling, Watkins, Cowing, and they're going to be competing for roster spots. So I do expect to see Jordan Watkins. The thing with Watkins, he can't get in his own way. No injuries this time. Stay healthy, and then we'll get a good idea of what he can do, because he's going to be playing with pretty good quarterback play in the preseason. It's Mac Jones, Curtis Rourke. So there's going to be opportunities for these guys. I think Watkins is locked in a battle with Jacob Cowing to make this roster. I think it just depends on who plays the best, who's going to make it. I think Watkins has got a fair shot. I think we will get a chance to see what he could do.
One of the other things that jumped out to me was from a photo, or maybe it was a video. I think it may have been a punt video, and then a photo of a Ephesians Prysock. This guy's not only tall, he has really long arms. He's going to be able to get to a lot of balls.
Yeah, the 49ers went with traits with some of their guys, right? That Prysock, Jaden Duggar, those 2 picks back-to-back, extremely long arms, extremely tall, and physically gifted. Prysock is an interesting guy. It was live on the stream where John Chapman was like, I think he's going to play safety, and then we heard the scouts, they were kind of saying, hey, we see this guy as an outside corner in our system. And I think that you look at him, he reminds me of, kind of the build of Ahkello Witherspoon with a little bit more physicality to him. He doesn't play like Witherspoon, just the build. And that always screamed kind of that traditional cover 3 type look. But I think they see a guy in Prysock who has the ability to kind of move around a little bit. I think they know that Darrell Luter Jr. is probably going to be on his way out. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked, if he doesn't make the team this year. And they're looking for another big physical corner to match up with some of these 13 personnels that they're going to be seeing. And so they've brought guys in, Jack Jones, they brought in Nate Hobbs. Those guys give you some depth of positions of veteran depth, but you're looking to strike with one of these guys like Prysock. Now, could he move to safety eventually? I know Dante Whitner, who we talked about earlier, he thinks that Prysock should move to safety. I think they're going to give him a shot on the outside. I think they're going to flirt around eventually with him as a big nickel as well. And we'll see where he ends up going. But yeah, I love the fact that he's got those long arms, the ability to wrap and tackle well. He plays physical, and he's in phase a lot longer than everybody else. He can kind of reach around and got that long reach. It's tough to make plays over the top of him, and I think the 49ers like that.
Anything else from the rookie minicamp that jumped out to you?
The thing that stood out was the fact that somebody actually made the team from a tryout. Larry Worthy, tries out for the football team, is able to make it. That just doesn't happen very often. And I'll be honest, I did not know who Larry Worthy was when the report came out that they signed him. I started going to look for Larry Worthy. I watched some highlights right away just to see who he was, and then I kind of got into like about a quarter of film of him. And he's an interesting guy. Do you think of Jaden Duggar build? That's Larry Worthy just with a little bit less weight. He's going, I think they said he's about 225 compared to, Duggar, who's 240. So there is something there. We know that, when you look at Fred Warner and his build, he plays about 230. So anywhere close to that, but they're getting these hybrid long physical players. And I think that really stood out to me once again in a direction that by their signings they're going. So I thought that was cool to see somebody step up and make a play. And it just proves these tryouts aren't for nothing, that there are guys who are going to be able to get the 49ers attention and come on. And he plays physical. I mean, he reminds me of somebody that wants to come downhill and light you up. And that's great. The 49ers need more guys like that are going to compete.
You mean like another Arkansas Razorback linebacker? That one worked out pretty well. So not saying he's going to be the next Dre Greenlaw, but I would be all about that for sure. So, all right, we were going to do some depth chart predictions, but I'm running out of time here. Schedule comes out tomorrow. What do you want to see?
I mainly just want to see, what the other primetime games are, right? We know that they're doing Mexico City. We know they're doing Australia. I want to see what the other three are going to be because that's very likely. Also, the NFL and Roger Goodell was supposed to do the 49ers a solid with them playing 2 international games. What does that mean, for them? And just kind of start seeing how this thing plays out. Because I think that the 49ers have a favorable schedule as it looks right now. When you're talking about what teams look like last year, we all know that changes extremely fast when you get new players and everybody starts playing differently. But that's what I want to see. I want to see the primetime games. I'm always interested in how those kind of, work out. And then also the other thing I always look at is the 10 o'clock start times on the East Coast. Those are other things I always look at to see how those could affect the team, the travel. We know they're going to travel a ton. But it's always something interesting to see how those things happen, the rest between games, the back-to-back type stuff. So all that's what I'm always most interested in. And then, when do the 49ers get to beat up on teams like the Cowboys and teams like that? That's what I want to see this year. The 49ers wreck the Cowboys again.
Yeah. And we'll try and do some advantage, disadvantage stuff like that next week. And maybe if we have some time next week, we can talk a little more depth chart. But that's all that we have for today. Just a quick reminder that we would appreciate it if you'd like the video and if you would go and subscribe to both channels. That helps us out. And we it always makes us happy to be able to talk to more 49ers fans. So everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.